Well, hello everybody and welcome to this session's episode of Fantastic Female Fridays, whereby I'm going to talk to you today about how to talk to your partner about money. Well, I'll tell you where this insight came from in order to run this episode, and that was the second most popular episode of Fantastic Female Fridays as of yet has been how to talk to your kids about money. And actually during that session, I had the pleasure of having Mr. Glenn Tompkins himself on as my guest, where we spoke about how to talk to your kids about money. And in his case, as he says himself, he is the dad of 4 different daughters. And also through my work, through things that I have done over the years, I have worked with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of teenagers. So we had a chat about that. And I was really intrigued by the way in which people reacted to the episode. So therefore I said, you know what we're going to do next? We're going to do how to talk to your partner about money. Now you may wonder, well, if that was the second most popular episode, what has the most popular episode been? Well, the answer to that is actually how to read a balance sheet for investors. All of this, of course, you can find if you search for Fantastic Female Fridays, or even better, if you subscribe to the VectorVest channel. So my name is Susan Hayes Cullerton and I am the host of Fantastic Female Fridays. And this show is all around women and investing. So what we do is that we talk about things that impact women when it comes to investing. And of course, men are super welcome all the time. And I'm delighted to say that we have built up quite the following now of both men and women around the world. So first of all, before we get started, maybe you might like to just chat in where you are tuning in from. And I'm going to keep an eye on that there on my questions pad, or on my chat pod over here. Just keeping an eye on that. And therefore, yeah, I can see all of that happening there now. And I'm just going to keep that right there on mute. Okay, great. Great stuff. Okay, so please do chat in your questions as we go along. I'm only delighted to see them. As you know, I often have to look at a different screen in order to see all that's going on. But that is a good thing too. Now, in addition as well, I would love if we got to hear as much interaction from you as possible. As you know, I absolutely love to hear from you all. And that is why I love to hear the conversation that you might have and about what we're talking about today. And of course, feel free, of course, to chat in your questions, chat in your comments and so on. So what do I see here? I see Glenn's daughter gave him another grandchild last night. Yes, that is very, very true. I saw that happening on Facebook. No, sorry, obviously not the birth, but I saw that development had happened on Facebook. I also, Vince said, this is a great topic. Thank you. Delighted to hear that, Vince. Lawrence's lovely topic. Congratulations, Glenn. Lots of people sending in their congratulations. Would you believe that Glenn himself rang me about approximately 7 minutes ago because I had a question for him and he said, I just want to get to you before you go live, Susan. So as always, I'm really appreciative that he does that and that he is the amazing guy that he is. Okay, so this show is all about focusing on how we can bring 3 aspects of a Venn diagram together. Number 1 is that I want to make sure that everybody who is part of the show develops their skill set in investing. Number 2, I want to give you the resources to do that. And number 3, I want to build your confidence in doing so. And that is the whole essence of Fantastic Female Fridays. And if you look at any of the previous episodes, when we talked about how to set effective goals, or when we talked about specific areas, a specific sector, like how, about looking at the future of travel. In fact, when we had Mary McKenna, the guest, on my previous episode around the future of travel, I actually took action as a result of one of the stocks that she mentioned that day, and it has been up around about 25% since then. Now, we can't always guess or assume that might happen, but I have to say I'm very happy. Very, very happy with my result as a result of that. Also, can I just give a shout out to Lisa? The reason I want to do that is that Lisa sent a tweet to me a couple of weeks ago now to say that Fantastic Female Fridays is the reason that she has had the confidence to go and take the first steps within the stock market. So really hope that everybody who is joining in today can have a similar story of where you have a success as a result of this show. And if you've had one already, chat it in. I'd love to hear it. Now, One last thing before we get right into what's going on here is just want to say that, of course, there's lots of content happening on this channel. So 3 things that you can do to engage with that. Number 1 is to subscribe to the VectorVest channel. And of course, then you will also know when Trending Thursdays happens, which happens every week. You know about my own show, Fantastic Female Fridays, as well as the various other content. I was a guest on the Hot Stocks panel in October, and I gave 3 stock recommendations. One of them was the stock that was mentioned on my own show, as I told you, that's been up quite significantly since, and also the summits, everything else that's happening on YouTube. So make sure, if you're interested in this type of content or you're interested in investing, to subscribe to the channel. Second thing is, of course, is that you can follow us on Instagram. So me, if you want to follow me personally, you can find me at Susan the Positive Economist. And of course, you also make sure and check out the VectorVest Instagram as well, because that is where there's a lot happening, and we're doing more and more there. So the more we can get to, the better. And I was on an Instagram meeting this week with the team, and they were just 3 followers away from 3,000. So don't know where it is today. Hopefully it's over it, but we'd love, of course, if you would add to that. And also the last thing then is, of course, if you want to register for the email that I'll send out after this show, it is going out live. So I don't prepare an article to go out in advance, because we don't know what way that this show is going to go based on what you want to talk about. I know what I want to talk about, but of course we always want to make sure that it's not just me is driving the bus, but that we've got plenty of people in the passenger seat. VectorVest.com/FFF. That's the way you can make sure that you get the follow-up resources as well as a result of what I'm going to talk about today. Okay, so enough of that now. What am I going to talk about today? Well, let's take a look at the agenda for what we're going to talk about. Number 1 is, what conversations might you actually need to have when it comes to talking to your partner about money? What are the conversations? When we talk about how to talk to your partner about money, what are we talking about? So what will the conversations actually be? That's the first thing we're going to do. Second thing is, the key thing in terms of actually making this happen is how to create the time to do so. That is also the next thing that we need to consider, is how to create the time. And I'm going to give you some really, clear things that have worked for me in my relationship, for sure, about how to create the time to do so. And then also we're going to talk about practical things to put in place, because a lot of what happens when it comes to talking about money is actually having the information to hand. And it can be much more helpful when you know what information that you need to have, and also when you have it in an easy to get place. And then the last thing we're going to talk about are tips and tricks. So just a couple of things to send you on your way then, just to show you just some really kind of practical things to make sure that you can do and implement really quickly afterwards. Okay, now I'm just taking a look over here at our comments. So Lauren says we need to encourage women empowerment to bring our experiences to the general public and work and local activism via education. Very true. And also great to see Rokaboy, and says, who is here from Fredericton in New Brunswick. That's always something I love to see. Will you chat in and tell me where you're tuning in from? I'd love to see that. Vince says, yes, I agree. We can all lift up each other. Then Vince also said, my wife is like, what the heck are you talking about charts? Boring. Don't worry. We're going to sort that out today. Okay, so this is precisely the whole concept of what we're going to talk about. Is we're going to start off with, what conversations do you actually need to have and put in place? Okay, so I again want to tell you why we need to talk about this, right? Here are 2 statistics that for me make this whole concept of why we need to discuss this truly worthwhile. The first thing is approximately 31% of all couples clash over their finances at least once a month. 31%. In other words, a third of all couples clash over their finances at least once a month. And I think that a lot of that comes from the fact that certain things don't happen in a relationship. I think that's often the issue, or that they're not given the time, or maybe we don't quite take the time out to go and have certain conversations. I have to say, I don't know about you guys, right? But my husband and I went on a pre-marriage course before we got married. And we thought, oh, for God's sake, we're 7 years going out. I'm sure we don't need any of this nonsense. But actually, who teaches you to be in a relationship really? Really? Who teaches you about this? who teaches you how to have arguments and see them through. And an awful lot of what we do is that we pick up from our parents before us, and their way of doing it certainly could be a way that can teach a lot of us a lot of things. But maybe if we just take on a few more additional skills or are open-minded to doing so, things could go a little bit better. So what I want to do is I want to help our community here today to be able to have the conversations in a better way than maybe you might have had before, and certainly to make sure that you are not one of those couples that clash over your finances at least once a month. And let's make that statistic where it's a different environment entirely. Now, John from Boston says, hello from Boston, more Irish here than in Ireland. Certainly, beautiful part of the world, and you're right, a lot of Irish people there for sure. Now, the second thing is 73% of individuals have money management styles that are different from their partners. Who could blame them? Why should our money management styles be the same? Mine certainly are not like my husband's at all. And likewise, his are not like mine. That it doesn't happen. It's simply, why would they be? We love each other absolutely to bits. There's no doubt about that. But we have a lot of things in common. And one of those actually is our passion for the stock market. But even that, we look at it quite differently. So the thing I would ask you is that if you think, okay, well, why don't they just see my point of view? Why should they see your point of view? And therefore, as you can see here, 73% of individuals have money management styles that are different from their partners. And I got both of these statistics from a survey done by Ameriprise. So it was a survey done right across America. And I think that it would certainly be replicated in other parts of the world as well. So where do we need to start in the conversation about this? Okay, couple of things I'm going to mention. Number one, there are a lot of assumptions that people bring to the table, and it's important to be tolerant of that. So what type of assumptions are we talking about? Number one, people grow up in certain houses where there is an assumption that the man and the woman, or the woman and the woman, or the man and the man, that the couple would have a joint bank account. That's certainly an assumption that a lot of people grow up with, but that's only an assumption. That's not a given. So that is an example of something where that could actually be quite contentious, particularly if one party thinks, well, I really want, well, not even that I really want, I just thought we would have a joint account. And then the other person says, well, my mom and dad or my parents never had a joint account. So why would we have one? And that's actually what can often lead to a clash, is that maybe when two people move in together, then they might say, okay, well, we just go and set up the joint account now. And the other person actually isn't quite comfortable with that. Or the other person broaches this idea and the other person says, well, actually, I hadn't thought about that. There are assumptions people bring to the table. And that's an example of one. Another one is the whole concept of planning a budget together. So some people in certain houses sit down and then they say, okay, Friday night, we are going to sit and we're going to plan how the money is going to be spent for the week. And the other person says, what? I am going to decide how I'm going to spend my money. Some couples, for example, they decide that, right, we're going to decide how we're going to spend money on big ticket items, but on the other hand, on the small ticket items, yeah, we're not going to question each other on that. And then on the other hand, again, like I say, some people have their money entirely separately. But the point I'm making here is that each one of you here with me tonight, every single one of you, you all have got assumptions. And they have probably formed either from the house in which you grew up with or the societal norms. Another assumption might be, well, doesn't everybody have a credit card? Why wouldn't I have a credit card? Of course I would have a credit card. And of course I would try to increase the limit. And of course I would have a balance. And of course that I would only repay the minimum amount. They're all assumptions. So the key thing that I want to point out here is that it's important to be tolerant of that. It's important to be tolerant of the understanding that other people may not feel the same way. The other person may not feel the same way that you did. And one other thing I want to touch on, and I know I am almost treading on some people's heartstrings when I say this, but if you're in a previous relationship, and particularly if that was your first serious relationship or maybe your only serious relationship, you can also think, well, that's the way couples do things. As opposed to then if you move on to another one, you may see things in the new person that you like or don't like or remind you of something of a previous situation that you didn't like as well. They're all assumptions. Now, second thing I'm going to say is this conversation around money in a relationship is a good way to build a relationship. It doesn't have to be contentious. It doesn't have to be full of fights. It doesn't have to be just where clashes happen. It can actually be a way to build a relationship, but it is far more likely to be that way if you see it that way. So When we talk about a couple of the things that we're going to talk about later on, we talk about having that conversation or making time for that conversation to happen, rather than see it as a chore or something to be done or just, let's just get rid of this because we need to get in there, is instead see this as a way to build your relationship. So just start with that intention in mind. This is going to be a way that you can communicate in such a way that will help your relationship, where you don't have to be one of those third of couples who clash over money matters on at least once a month. See this as a way to build it. Next thing I'm going to talk about, I'm going to give you a personal story in this one. I talk through scenarios. So, and I'm talking about fear of success as well as fear of failure, right? So lots of people think that the greatest thing that holds them back is fear of failure, right? Maybe they know how to do something. Look, we know how to get a mortgage. We know we have to fill out forms. We know that there are certain terms and conditions that have to be met. We know all of that. We know we could go to the bank. We know we could download those forms. But you know what? We're kind of actually afraid of being rejected for a mortgage, or we're afraid of maybe that actually then we'd have to move house and put a load of stuff in the boxes. But actually, can I tell you that fear of success is actually much, much stronger than fear of failure. And I want to tell you a personal story of how this happened to me, right? And again, please do, if you want to, if you're comfortable with it, please do chat in what your thoughts on this or your own experiences on this, right? But I'll tell you this example. I'm very grateful to say I have been with VectorVest for over 9 years, 10 years next August. And I remember the first meeting I had with the company, it's the second one, not the first one. First one was accidental, where I actually attended a session when I was at a money show. So that was an accidental meeting. Second time, I remember flying over to North Carolina and went over anyway, and I met the team there. So where Joey works, just by the way, hi Joey. So where the team works, where Melissa, who is behind our social media now, where a range of the people are, right? And I remember being over there on the first day. And I think I've told you this before, guys, right? But Glenn was actually the first guy that trained me in anything to do with the program. He was the first guy. Steve Chappell trained me. A whole lot more people did. But anyway, I remember being in there and I thought, oh my God, this company is really fantastic. And I just thought the product, and I wasn't long, well, I was a few years after finishing college. And I thought if I had had this product, how much easier my thesis would have been. Because I did my thesis in options. So I remember thinking, my God, this is great. And then I was also, because I'm managing director of VectorVest Europe, I knew I was going to be able to travel a lot around Europe. And I just thought, oh, I'll be able to go to Norway and Sweden and France and Germany. And oh my God, this is going to be amazing. And I remember ringing Ardal, my husband, and saying on Skype, and I remember saying, like, what if this affects our relationship? And he said, what? And I said, well, like, what if I'm traveling? Like, what if I'm traveling maybe once or twice a month, and then I'll be away, and then I can see this great company being able to offer me great opportunities, and obviously then I know I'll be able to learn an awful lot more. But like, what if I'm not at home as much? I mean, is this going to affect us? And the thing is what I was afraid of. I was afraid of success in a different part of my life affecting my relationship. But if I didn't articulate that, imagine what might have happened. I might have sat there and, I was over for a week the first time. And I might have sat there and I would have said, you know what? Oh, geez, I'm not sure about this. Yeah, great subject, great product, great opportunities. Yeah, and I could have convinced myself of negative things that I could have just convinced myself, look, it probably wouldn't work out anyway, or like it probably, and I could have come up with things, and I could have just sabotaged it. And then I could have got to the end of the week, and at the end of the week said to the VectorVest team, yeah, how about no, look, not for me right now, not at my stage, not at my age, blah, 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 blah. Is, you see, fear of success is a great way of sabotaging us. It truly is a great way of sabotaging us, because it takes away the light, or it takes away, what happens is the fear of change eclipses the opportunity of success. And unless you talk about what success looks like, whether it is taking on an extra job, whether it is setting up a business, whether it is going back to study college, whether it is going on to invest in the stock market, whether it is whatever it might be, it is important. And by the way, this show takes place at 5 o'clock Irish time, every second Friday evening. And again, I had the chat with Ardal and I said, okay, well, ordinarily we used to do a certain thing on a Friday night. We don't do anymore. We do it at a different stage now. But that changed as a result of having this show. But unless I spoke to him about this, unless I actually articulated maybe the worries and the concerns that I had, well then, where would we be now? So what I would say is talk through scenarios. What if? What if certain things happened? What if we started putting more money into our pension? What happened if one of us thought about early retirement? What if? And it's important to talk through those scenarios. And aligned with that is talk about a goal. You learn an awful lot about your partner when you ask them about their money goals. And yes, this is not exactly something you drop into the conversation in between like 2 episodes on Netflix. But it certainly is, and we'll talk about creating the time later, but it certainly is important to talk about this. For sure, it is really important to talk about this with each other. And if you ask people what their goal is, like in my case has always been to build a business that really had an impact. And I've been able to do that with VectorVest. I really have. I've been able to build VectorVest Europe, and I've been able to offer other people jobs within it, and I've been able to travel the world. And also what was really important to me was I was able to travel the world but never get homesick. Even when I've been to the States multiple times in the year. I have been over with the money shows with the team. I was in San Francisco and Orlando and Toronto, all ending in O. I was there for 3 money shows one year, and I remember, I think I was over in the States as well, more than that. Like that's a pretty significant thing to be able to do. But I'm never away, or very, 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 very rarely away more than 2 weeks. So, and that's the type of thing that we had a chat about, and we said, well, my goal is to build a business and to have impact and to be able to enjoy it and learn and grow and develop. Obviously, as well as financially and economically, you want all of that too. But the thing is that when I was listening to him and talk about his goals were different. And he doesn't necessarily, he's been with me on various occasions, and many of the VectorVest team have met him, but he doesn't necessarily want to travel. And he is really interested in the individual stocks that are within the program as opposed to how the program works. And there's various different ways in which we are quite different. But when you actually create the space and the excitement and the room for the other person to talk about their financial goals, it's very interesting what you might learn. And when you talk about the language of goals and solutions and you let excitement form, then it takes away the clashing. It takes away the whole, well, you did this and I did that. Just like let the goal and let space. If you create the space to have the goal, that can really, really be helpful. Now, let's though talk about the kind of the lesser pleasant things. And that is when somebody says, okay, well, look, I'm going to take on a second job because I think that we really do need to be able to pay off the mortgage more quickly. Or I'm the one that says that I'd like more holidays in the Caribbean as opposed to our staycations in our own state. So as a result of that, I am going to be the one who goes out to earn extra money. And then a month later, nothing happens. And then they start complaining that they're not going on holidays in certain parts. Now, I'm going to avoid the fact, of course, that a lot of us can't travel right now. But like this episode is designed to be evergreen. And I want you to always be able to feel that you can come back to this episode and check in again on what we're talking about. So let's just assume that we're not just here in November 2020, but that we're here at different times. Is that's where accountability has to happen. Now, accountability doesn't equal nagging. Accountability isn't, well, you said. Instead, accountability, I'm somebody that really believes in this, right? I do believe in this. And by the way, you guys hold me accountable because every second Friday, one Friday in every fortnight, I am here with you. And you make sure with me that we talk about a different topic, that we make sure that it's tangible and that it's practical and that we can work on it and that we can move forward together. By holding on to this date and by knowing that the team, whether it's Joy, whether it's Melissa, whether it's Clay, whether it's anyone of the team that they're all there as well. I can't just rock up here on a Friday evening and say, so guys, what do you want to talk about? So you hold me accountable because we have a date in the diary. We have a topic that we're going to discuss. And of course, with your interaction, it always makes it more helpful. And I know what you want to talk about also. But I will say, here's the way accountability can happen in a relationship is number one, it's really important that people set their own goals. Is that if I impose a goal on somebody else and they don't necessarily want to make it happen, it's going to be very hard to hold them accountable and probably that goal isn't going to go very far. Whereas instead, if I say, right, I'm going to be the one to set up a stock market account. I'm going to be the one to sign up for 2 VectorVest webinars next week so I can learn. and I am going to be the one to make sure that we have $1,000 to transfer into the account to get it started. And then 2 weeks later, and then also, like, from the session we did on effective financial goals, every goal needs time. So then we might also say, okay, well, a SMART goal now would be, we'll say, right, I'm going to do that in 2 weeks' time. And in 2 weeks' time, I don't do it. Then what? Well, it's important then that the other person holds me accountable and say, okay, so what happened? Well, I didn't get around to it. Why didn't you get around to it? Well, it's just there was this and there was that and there was the other. And a lot of the time we let things that are easier to do get in the way of things that are more difficult to do but actually have a longer effect. So you might say to me, did you really not have time? Because really, in order to set up an account, might have taken 10 minutes and you spent 2 hours sitting down watching the TV Thursday night when you could have done it. And Trending Thursdays was on yesterday and Fantastic Female Fridays was on today. And there's lots more going on. And you didn't even sign up for those, never mind not attend. So maybe we might just have a chat there about what's really going on. And then the person might come out and say, well, they're actually worried that success might actually happen. Like, yeah, but I'm afraid if I set up the account, well then, like, what if we actually do go on and we do actually make money, or we do end up losing money, and then what do we do? Is when you actually hold action up to somebody, remember, action always beats intention. Action always beats intention. Action always beats intention. When action happens over intention, then really you start to see what starts to happen. So when it comes to holding each other accountable, what you need to do is, first of all, let and make sure the other person sets the goal. And you too, just whoever has the goal, let them set the goal. Let them set when they're going to do it. And then at the time, hold them accountable in that way by saying, okay, what's happened? Why didn't something happen? And so on. And the last thing I'm going to say is, just to reiterate this point again, is priorities are likely to differ. They are likely to differ. My ambition for the business might be different to my husband's ambition for retirement, and they may kind of collide at certain times. Even, and again, look, I know I'm pulling on heartstrings, but my job here is to give you as good an experience as possible so that you can take this and you can go away and you can think about it. But another thing is that some people might say, well, I want to put more money into the kids' education. And the other person in the relationship could say, but I want to put more money into our time after their education. So I believe we should put more money into our 401k, or we should put more money into our pension, so that then that gives us an opportunity to enjoy the life that I believe that we should have. And yes, let's give the kids X amount of education, but after that, let them go on their own. And the reason I'm talking about this is that when it does come down to managing your finances in relation to your kids, you can again have different priorities. And it's only as the kids get older you learn that. Because when they're 5, 6, 7, 15, 16, 17, but it's different when they get to 21 or 22. Then it could be, well, do we help them buy a house? Do we help them fund a master's? Do they live at home? Do they not? Do we put certain money into their account so that they can learn how to trade? And you might say, geez, I thought we had the same ideas on this all along for the past 20 years about the kids, and now you're actually coming out with something different. Is priorities are likely to differ, and they are likely to change over time. And if you simply know that and are tolerant of that, well, then that can certainly help the conversation. Now, these are all the things to bear in mind from the beginning. I'm going to just check over to my comments. I'd love to hear what you think about this. And hello to everybody. Hello to everybody, whether you've just joined or whether you've been here from the beginning. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic. For sure, I'm more than happy to hear what you have to say, or if there's any questions that you have. Just checking over here now to make sure that I can see everything that's going on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to tell you about what you might actually be talking about during those conversations. So here we go. It's only this, right? It's only this much. Debt, pensions, wills, investments, stock market, mortgage, priority budgets, organisation, attitude to debt, credit health. That's all. And right, we're going to talk about breaking down all of this now in a few moments. Stick with me. But first of all, debt, do you have it? And how long do you want it? And is debt the burden or is debt the blessing? So my rule on debt, personally, my own rule, which I feel quite strongly about, and I make sure that is reflected pretty well in our relationship, is this, and that is the life of the loan going to be longer than the life of the asset? So if I am going to borrow for a house, or I'm going to borrow for a piece of my education that will fundamentally lead me to better opportunities in the workplace, then I believe that debt is worthwhile, because the life of the asset, as in the impact of the education, or how long I'm going to be living in the house, it's longer than how long I'm going to be repaying it. On the other hand, if I'm going to borrow for 2 weeks, if I'm going to borrow for a year to go on holidays for 2 weeks, that really, to me, doesn't make much sense. So that's my rule of thumb, right? So when it comes to debt, it's always good to have this conversation about like, how much debt do we want to take on? How long do we want to have it for? How are we going to pay it back? Over what time frame? And how are we going to make sure that the money that we spend on this is also something that is worthwhile doing, so that as a result of that, then we find a way to make sure that it's good for our relationship, good for our family, good for all the various different things that happen there. And that's what's really important. That's really what's very important to talk about when we are in a scenario of talking about this whole conversation. Now, right now, I'm just retweeting all of these different points. Anyone that follows me on Twitter, I'm at @SusanHayes_. And I'm just retweeting right now, just in case any of you are trying to note all those down. I am just going to let you know that it's there on Twitter. And I have just retweeted it right this second. And I'll just tell you there that is my Twitter handle. It is @SusanHayes_. So remember the underscore there. I've just retweeted it right this second. Now, in addition, it's also worthwhile talking about pensions. How much do we want to have? When are we going to save for it? How much are we going to save for it? And that's not all, of course. How are we going to invest the pension pot in order to get there? Inheritances. This is often an area that can be very contentious, and actually they can be far more contentious if this isn't done before the person dies or before the family member dies. It can be far more contentious than if it's done beforehand. So it's also good to talk about, well, what would happen to the house? What will happen to money? What will happen to stocks? What will happen to the company? If you own a company or if you're part of a company, what will happen then? And it's good to have those conversations early, like as early as possible. Then, of course, investments. Of course, I'm aware that a lot of the audience here at Fantastic Female Fridays, you are likely to be a stock market focused audience. But if you're not, you're still very welcome. You're still super welcome. Really and truly, you're still super welcome, because I am here to make sure that you feel comfortable in understanding the language of investing and that you know what to consider along the way. That's what I'm here to actually do. So as a result of that, you can please do, like you really do make sure that you're here as often as you would like, even if it is stock market focused, even if you decide never to invest, it doesn't matter. You can still be here, still be part of the show, and still be part of the community, because the more you know about this, then the more you can decide how you want to take this in the future. So a subset of investments, of course, is the stock market. Do you want to invest in the stock market? Do you want to invest in bonds? Do you want to put money away for savings? How do you want to actually do this? As well as, of course, a mortgage, whether you want to take on a second mortgage, whether you want to move in together, whether you want to move from a rental property into an owner-occupied property. And then as we move on, other things like priority budget items. So what is your priority? If you want to invest, or if you want to put money into something, what would that be? Is it going to be a luxury item? Is it that you want to pay off the mortgage as soon as possible? Is it that you want to have, instead of a flush bank account, you want to have an account of experiences, a bank of experiences instead? Is it that you want a lot of things, or is it that you want a lot of experiences, or is it that you want a lot of savings? All of those things are what matter. And this is another one. Now, I have to tell you, I am the one that picks up the mantle here for sure, and that is in organization. I am the person, there's no doubt about it. I'm the person in our mortgage, or sorry, not in our mortgage, in our marriage. In our marriage, I am the one in our marriage for sure, where I am the one that's organized when it comes to finances. When it looks for statements, or when it looks for a copy of this, or where is the username and password for that? It's definitely me. But again, people can have different thoughts about this. Now, I also put in here attitude to debt, but it could be attitude to anything. It could be attitude to any one of the other things that are right around here. All of these things matter. So whether it is your attitude to pensions, or your attitude to saving, or your attitude to risk, your attitude to reward, your attitude to what reward is, all of that as well. All of this feeds into those conversations. And finally, credit health. So I can owe a lot, but I can be very credit healthy if I make sure that I meet those payments every single month. And some people feel that when one loan is paid off, it's just time to get another. They basically take money from the future into today via debt. And that's certainly as long as they can substantiate it and they can pay the money for it, and that they're okay with paying the interest on it, and that they're also okay with the potential risk that it exposes them to, well, then they can still be very, very credit healthy. But it's all of these things are worth exploring. Now, the thing is that they can also happen at a time that isn't very good. You can have a very strange, or you might be able to find out that somebody in the relationship, you or the other person, ends up going out and blowing a lot of money on something that isn't needed, and it's all on the credit card and now it has to be repaid. Or if you find yourself moving closer and closer and closer to pension age, but the problem is that you're getting closer to pension age, all right, but on the other hand, you haven't actually saved an awful lot of your pension, and then you wonder, oh my God, is it worth it? It is, by the way, it is worth it. But that can be a difficult time. If somebody dies unexpectedly, either in your own relationship or in a different relationship, and then you end up actually thinking about this at a time when you're going through a lot of grief, that can be very difficult. When it comes to investments, you don't want to be making decisions about investments when things are going really well or really badly. And we have seen both of those in the last couple of months in absolute extremes, because you can be very biased then. Also, when it comes to the stock market, I have a particular technique that I have to tell you about that. But also in the stock market as well, it's very, very important to know what you're doing and why. Also, I can go on and on here. I can go on about all of these things, but there are wrong times to discuss all these. And even though they may be the wrong times or inappropriate times or less than ideal times, if you don't pick a time that is ideal or is appropriate or just is a time that's suitable, well, then you can often leave these until either they're too late or they might be the last thing you want to deal with when you get to a certain stage. So the question then is when? When is a good time? When? Now, the answer to this is simply picking a time in the first place. Actually picking a time at all, you're probably well ahead of the average or well ahead of the normal side if you actually have a time of when. So again, I'm just going to pop over here to the chat, and I see that you've been quiet enough now today so far. So if you'd like to, please do pop in any questions, or you might even share comments like, when do you personally decide to have these chats? And maybe you don't at all, but that's certainly the question that I have for you is when. When do you talk about this stuff? And I'm going to tell you, I'll happily tell you when. So this is what we used to do on a Friday night. Ardla and I used to always do this on a Friday night before. We used to have what we call a Friday night board meeting. And I'm just going to go to my camera here now. My full camera seems to this. So we used to do this on a Friday night, right? And every single Friday night, and it was my favorite time of the week. My favorite time of the week. We used to go and we used to have our Friday night board meeting, and that's when we used to talk through everything, right? We used to talk through things like how things were going in the business, or like what we were doing at a certain time around the business, or a plan we were going to do, or something like that. And then of course we got engaged. And when you get engaged, then you start planning a wedding. And I remember it was actually that time. It was when we started planning for the wedding. That was when a lot of the financial conversations that I mentioned there to you, that was when a lot of those kind of came to the fore. Because then you had to start thinking, okay, how are we going to save for this? What's important to you? What's important to me? I obviously think this is worth spending money on, or maybe more money than you think on. And then of course that led to other conversations as well. So what I will say though, is that having that board meeting time, as we used to call it, we used to have it every single Friday night. So there was many a time that we used to, we could have been part of that statistic of 31% of couples clash once a month about finances, clash about anything. And we've often said, look, do you know what we'll do now? We won't argue about this right now because I'm running out the door to the office, or I might be getting on a plane or something, and you're going out golfing, or you're just about to do something else. Why don't we just make sure and park this and talk about it during the board meeting? And I can tell you that was one of the best things we've ever done for our relationship, is because then there is a space and a time to have an argument if we need to have an argument, or to have a discussion where it's not just like someone saying something off the cuff and then the other one flying off the handle or anything. By actually having the space and time to talk about these things, that can truly be helpful. Really and truly, I have to say, that can make a very big, very big difference. So maybe it is for you guys. Maybe it is talking to your partner on a Friday night. Maybe it is at a certain night during the week when the kids have gone to bed. Maybe it's once a month. Maybe it is whatever. But you know what? It doesn't matter when. It actually doesn't matter when. It matters that it happens. and just create the space for it. And by the way, some Friday nights, we just weren't in the forum for talking about the business or talking about money or talking about whatever. We just have the chats, and that's lovely too. And I actually think that that's a really important thing for any relationship, is to make sure that there is time there that's unplanned for anything, just having the chats, just actually catching up again. For sure, I certainly think that that's been, and it's, as I say, my favorite time of the week. Definitely my favorite time of the week, and nothing stood in the way of my board meeting. I've been at all sorts of conferences on Fridays, been out drinks with various different customers, or you'd be at an after drinks or an after conference drinks, or I could have been in the office doing great work or whatever. Does not matter. Nothing got in the way of my board meeting. Now, that's changed, of course, because of this show, right? So this show, by the way, still nothing gets in the way of it now, don't worry. This show, of course, when it happens at the time that it happens, it's not conducive to me being able to run out the door of the office and then to go. So instead we changed it to having a breakfast during the week instead. And that's what we do. One morning in the week, we go out for breakfast, the two of us, and we just have the chats about whether it's the business or certain thing to do with finance or whatever. So last week, by the way, the thing that we were talking about, well, I basically did a lot of the work around it, because in my case, as I mentioned, I'm kind of the organising one, but the one that we were having the chat about was the income tax return, because it's due this time of year. So it was just, just check in, say, right, look, this is this. And like that probably took maybe 10 minutes. But do you know what? There wasn't a big surprise when a tax bill came in or when a tax relief happened or whatever. Just talking about it. Vince said, we are all listening. Great ideas for getting the family together. It's never enough time to plan. Yeah, for sure. And again, it's about having the time to do this when there isn't a problem. If there was a big tax bill and suddenly, oh geez, how do we deal with this now? Or how did this happen? Or how did you let this happen? Or why didn't we know about this? That's when emotions can run high, as opposed to logic and planning and just thinking through these things. So that is the key point that I wanted to make there. So when it comes to when, just make sure that it happens. That it happens, because the ideal thing is that it happens at a time when it's not the wrong time, or it's the inappropriate time, or it's the last thing that you want to think about. Sorry, now I'm just going to go back there. Okay, now on to the practical matters. Here are my suggestions on a very, very, very practical basis. I want to just say to you, here's a couple of things that I suggest that you do, right? First of all, have everything in one place, and I suggest a Trello board. Trello is a project management tool, or it's a project management app. Now, it's a project management lite, Lite, right? Project management lite. That is where we store everything. That's where you can have cards and you can have labels and deadlines and colors and fancy things and all sorts, right? But it is important to just have everything in one place and have them in one digital place. So I will also tell you that is how a lot of us in VectorVest actually work together on projects anyway, is that we have Trello boards there. So you can use them in work, you can use them outside. But definitely, I do recommend having everything kept in one particular place, for sure. Vince says the 5 F's: faith, family, finances, fun and friendship. Absolutely. Sounds like a good formula there. And that's another F there, Vince. Now, so first, as I say, I personally keep a Trello board and everything is there in one place. Second thing is to have a nice notebook to write your goals. Now, the other thing that I want to say to you as well is that despite the fact that you might be in a relationship, it's important that you take time out on your own as well to think about what your financial goals are. And that's something I did Sunday. Last Sunday, I was sitting at home and I was watching, I actually watch very, very, very little TV, but I was watching a series anyway on Netflix. And afterwards, I decided to switch on the radio. And I got myself a lovely present recently, a diffuser. It's actually over here right now beside me. And the essential oil that I have diffusing is orange. And I got a coffee and I just sat and I wrote about what my financial goals are. Because of course it's hard to talk about your financial goals if you don't know what they are. And it can be very easy to argue with somebody else about their financial goals if they're different to yours. But it's particularly difficult if you don't know what your own are. So what I would say, the second thing to have there is a nice notebook to write your goals. It's just a nice thing to have. And just that's what I did last week. And obviously I hosted the session on Fantastic Female Fridays a while ago about what effective financial goals are. So I know exactly what to do. But as life changes and as you go on, as like I really would love for this show to grow and grow and grow. And I'd really like your help to make that happen, whether that is through telling me what you'd like to see in the show, or whether it is that you come back and either you tune in live on the Friday evenings, or that you come back and you look at the links afterwards and you settle in, or maybe that you share this with somebody else. Actually, on that note, what I'd really appreciate is that if you wouldn't mind, if you might like to actually like the button as well, if you might like this video, then at least then that's telling YouTube that that you like this content, and it'll show it to others. But that's one of my goals for sure. That's definitely one of my goals. And as I say, I'd really appreciate if you do push the like button on the video. So I was writing about this, and I was writing about a range of other things. And you might say, but Susan, if you grow the show, how does it directly affect a financial goal? You see, the thing is that our financial goals are very closely linked to other things that matter in our lives. So in this case, you guys matter to me. You do. This show matters to me. That's why I invest time in building this show, is because I want, and I've always wanted to be able to help people to be more able and more willing to look at their finances. But actually, apart from that, something else I'd say is what I didn't realize up until I really started thinking about and brainstorming with the team, like Clay and Joey and Melissa and so on, is about what this show was going to be about and how it was going to be different. What I didn't realize I really wanted to do as well is I really wanted to help people to become more confident about money. So therefore, part of my financial goal ties in with the business, and of course, part of the business is growing this show. And the only way I'm going to grow the show is that if I do and build an experience for you that you like and that you enjoy and that you feel is worthy of sharing and saying to other people and so on like that too. So that's what I would say. Secondly is a nice notebook to write your goals. Now, third thing, and this is going to be, want to show you this in particular, right, is having a Google sheet with the reasons why. So just going to show you a couple of things here now, right? Let me pull up VectorVest for a moment, okay? Let me just go, I'm going to go over here now and let me just show you here, right? So here is the VectorVest program. Now, this is Paychecks, the stock Paychecks. I've spoken to you about this stock before. This is a stock. Ardal and I always make our stock decisions together, always. He will say to me, I'm thinking of buying this stock, and I'll say to him, I'm thinking of buying this stock. And we have the one portfolio, and we say, right, what are we going to do? But how do you think it feels if a stock does that, right? How do you think, you chose a stock and I didn't want it at the time, blah, 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 blah. So can I show you one key thing here on VectorVest that many of you may not be aware of, those of you who are subscribers, and that is, so what you can do here is click on, over here, I'm just going to, let's say, pull up a new stock here. So I'll show you how to do it twice, right? So, right, here we've got Paychecks, and down here is Colgate, right? Two stocks that I have, that we have bought and owned through options before. So first of all, I go in here to Paychecks and I click note, and here I can actually type a note. So I can say in here, for example, Ardal picked this stock because, and then underneath that I can say, and Susan agreed because of the dividend and the fact that it's not cyclical, i.e. defensive. See? So in that way, now I'll just delete that note there now. So as a result, we can actually, then if you're going back and say, oh my God, Paychecks is falling, and this is something, I don't know how many of you have been with VectorVest now for a while, but I'll tell you, 6.5 years ago, a guy called Kevin Crow taught me this technique, and he said, you know what, Susan, every transaction that you make at the stock market, document why you do it. And he was right. But when it comes to actually making joint financial decisions, it's even better if you do that so that both people can remember why they did what they did. Now, maybe you don't have VectorVest, okay? And if you do, I see there that that VectorVest was just, that the link to the trial has been put into the chat there. But the other thing I want to show you is you can always create a Google Sheet. And for this functionality, so I'm just going to say portfolio notes, okay? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to view this I am going to zoom. I'm going to zoom this up here, right? It's 200%. So what I'm going to put in here is I'm going to say, right, stock. I'm going to put in here ticker. I'm going to put in here live price. And I'm going to also put in reason why, right? Reason why. So in here, this time I'm going to put paychecks. Ticker code is what? PAYX. Now here is, I'm also going to put in Google Finance function. Google Finance, okay, there we go. There's a Google Finance function. Then I'm going to put in inverted commas, PAYX, inverted commas again, comma, and I'm going to put in here price and comma, or bracket. There we go. And now this will constantly update with the live price all the time, formatted there in dollars. Reason why. And this time I'm going to just copy and paste all what I said here. Copy and paste. Okay. There we go. And therefore, it's just a very simple little diary like this now where I can just keep all the stocks together and the reasons why. And believe me, that saves a lot of arguing. And you could do this for anything. You could do this on a bank account. You could decide, well, we are going to make sure that we save up to $30,000 and then because then you might get to $30,000 and say, okay, well, obviously we'll keep saving. And then you go back and say, well, yeah, well, we said we were going to save until 30,000. Okay, well, what will we do then? Well, maybe we might put some of that put any of the excess into the stock market or spend it. That's what you might do there instead. Now, a really handy little tool back in VectorVest again is I'm going to show you two more. One is a watch list. Okay, so if I go over here to a watch list and I go into watch list viewer and I create a new watch list. Oh, sorry. I'm going to add this to my watch lists. I'm going to create a watch list here. And in here, I'm going to say Susan and Ardle's watch list. Ardle's watch list. Okay, so in here then, let's say Susan and Ardle's watch list. Again, I'm going to put in the same stocks. Let's say here it's paychecks. I'm going to put in, let's say Colgate, CL for Colgate. And I'm also going to put in, what else am I going to put in here? I'm going to put in McDonald's, right? Let's just take three stocks there. We've had all these before, so that's why they're coming to mind. Right, now, of course I can go into each of the graphs and I can document it there and so on like that. But also remember here, over here in the comments as well, this is also a kind of a handy little tool where, oh, let me just open that up again. You can actually put your comments in there to describe the watch list as well. So there I have it named as Susan and Ard's watches, but I can actually edit in there and I can add in some, yeah. So I can create new groups and I can do all sorts in there. But the thing is that you can also add in your comments along the way, which can be very, very helpful so that you can remember what you're doing. The last thing I'm going to tell you here is, of course, you can also create your own portfolio. So you can simply go in here and you can create your own portfolio. And the reason that I would suggest that you could do this is, I'm just going to let that load up there now. Actually, let me just create a portfolio in here. So in here, I can do, let's say again, Susan and Ardle's portfolio. Okay, and in here, I can put in the description of the various different notes that we have. Currently, we have paychecks because of the dividend. We are thinking about adding McDonald's because of. So you see what I mean is that having just a little place there to hold on to your notes as time goes on, when it comes, as I say, to that inappropriate time or that time when you see the market absolutely collapsing, or maybe you came up with one stock and it's rocketing and somebody else came up with a different stock and you're kind of like, well, I did say, is to go back and look at the reason why you actually took action. So there are just a couple of different spots where you can keep notes there. So for example, we have on the graph, all you need to do is go up here to where you'd normally put a line, and here you can see you can put in a note, and that's where you can put in the note. I'm just going to delete that there now, and of course that'll stay. If I go out of the program and come back in again, that note will stay. And also there's other things as well, like there's lots more you can do in here in order to remember things, like you might put in some support and resistance. For those of you who understand what support and resistance is, I'm not going to get into explaining what it is because I would be here for a lot longer. But you can see here that there are support and resistance lines. So you can leave those in there and say, well, you know what, the support line bounced off that. That's the reason that we decided to go back into the stock. It's just there's a lot of tools in there that can help you to capture how you felt at a moment in time. Also, like I mentioned, Google Sheets, I use this too. Sometimes if I want to go back and look at historical reasons, I might copy and paste it across, and I always put in the live price there. You might also, for example, put in here. Now, all of this should be in your broker anyway, if you're buying, but purchase price. Okay, so purchase price might have been, like, say I looked at this, I had a short put at 72.50 there a while ago. I might say 72.50, and then I can work out how much we made and so on like that. You can do all that fancy stuff if you want. Again, Portfolio does it for you anyway. But just I do just want to make sure that anybody who isn't part of, oh yeah, okay, sorry, just Nikita there said, can you put that live price formula again? I can, of course, Nikita. I'm always conscious that you're all welcome to this community. If you're a VectorVest subscriber, you're probably going to get more out of what I talk about. But if you're not, that's okay. That's okay. We're still only delighted to have you. Nikita, I'm going to do this I'm going to do this twice, okay? So Colgate. Colgate is here. Ticker code is CL. Right, now watch me closely. So equals Google Finance. Just start typing GOO and it comes up automatically for me, right? Google Finance. So I click then on Google Finance. Now, automatically a left bracket appears then, Nikita. Now I'm going to do inverted commas. For me, that's shift 2. It might be different on yours. Then I have to put in the ticker code. You can see that if you look at just the command underneath the cell, you can just see exactly how it's leading me there. The first thing I need to do is put in the ticker code. So put in CL. If you're a real mastermind at Excel, you might put in equals B4, but I'm just going to keep it simple here now, okay? So that's fine, comma. So at this stage, Nikita, what I've done is that I've said to Google Finance, I said, okay, Google Finance, I want you to pull information about Colgate in here. But now I need to tell it how to also put in what data that I actually want. In this case, I want the price. PRICE, inverted commas again to close the argument. And then I'm telling Google Finance, right, that's all I want. So therefore I put the bracket on the other side and there we go. Colgate is 85.27 and then I format it up there. And I'll do it one more time. So since I'm talking about Google, let's do Google. So Google, of course, alphabet I should really say, shouldn't I? Alphabet. So over here, then I'm going to put in here GOOG, that's the ticker code. If you don't know how to get the ticker code, guys, just go on. It's super simple to find. Just go to Google Finance itself. Again, this is so much easier when you're in VectorVest, but just to show you. So in here, I might look at, if I'm looking for alphabet, see in there, see the way down here, it says GOOG, that's the ticker code. All right, so I'm just going to close that now again. So back over here, and again, Nikita, equal to Google Finance, the bracket will appear automatically, inverted commas, GOOG, inverted commas again, comma, and then here, you put in price. Of course, Nikita, you can always go back to this part of the video as well afterwards, and you can see exactly how I did that. Again, load it up there, and then I put in my $sign, and there we go. There you go, and that'll keep updating itself now. That'll do its thing. So we have Google Sheets talking to Google Finance, and they'll just keep behaving themselves. They'll keep behaving themselves after that. Okay, now going to go back over here now to what I wanted to tell you about the practical things to have in place. So let me just go switch over here, back over here. Now, next thing, your usernames and passwords. Oh, how often do we say, right, you're more than welcome. More than welcome indeed, Nikita. You're very welcome for saying thank you. Vince said, I was thinking of subscribing to Trade Journal software. This is interesting. You can do it all in VectorVest, Vince. Truly, you can do it all in VectorVest. It's up to you. You can subscribe to whatever you want. But you really can. I have to say, you really, really can. And that's what I do in my stock charts, is to say why I'm picking something. Or even if I have a certain layout. You know, if you have a certain layout in VectorVest, then, okay, let's go over and take a look. Let's go over there now and take a look right now. I'll just show you back over here. So if you go over here to, just going to go on to a different graph now. let me go on to McDonald's, right? So since I was talking about that there, right, here's McDonald's. So I go on to McDonald's and there's nothing, right? Now, let's say if I really like, as you can see, you can see here what I really like. I like having my dividend yield. I like my P ratio. I like having my VST. I always look at RS. I'm not very happy about the fact that the RT, well, you can't see it there now because of my picture, but if I just, well, anyway, at the moment, McDonald's RT is down under 1, so not very happy about that. But anyway, right, let's just say that is what I want to see on my layout, is I can actually create a certain layout up here, and then I can save that layout. So Vince, of course, as I say, if you want to subscribe to a different piece of software as well, sure, but if you are somebody that wants to document and remember certain things that work really well for you, it's all in there. It's all in there. And actually, in my own views next week, I am going to talk about that, just how you can actually document all of this, right? So yeah, you can check that out. If you go to, all of my views are in, if you go to VectorVest Europe and click views, and you go to Essaviewer, all of my views are in there. These are the US ones, and if you go over to Europe, they're mine. Okay, now, let's go back over here. So I was telling you about usernames and passwords, right? For sure. Just knowing where your usernames and passwords are. Just knowing. You're welcome. You're welcome there, Vince. No problem. Having a place to just store all that information can just be so helpful. Oh, so helpful. So that's certainly something. And you know where I store them? I store them in my Trello board. Now, not the usernames and passwords together just in case they're ever hacked, but I do always know where I can get them. And it is very, very important. When I was doing the tax return last week, I needed to have all the data in our dividends. And of course, it was Sunday evening. And so I say I had the diffuser on and a coffee, and it was all just lovely. I had music on in the background. And then you think, oh, I can't find a username and password. So I do have them, and I have them stored because it just really, really helps. Now, number 5 here I suggest to you is having weekly time to talk about this, right? Having weekly, and maybe not necessarily just talk about it, sorry, I should be more clear, is spend time every week, even if it's 10 minutes, on something to do with that circle that I showed you there a while ago. And that's what I do, is that I take just, even if it's 10 minutes, ideally I take an hour, and I just think, okay, what do we need to do? Maybe we need to review the health insurance, or maybe I need to go and get some information together and just review our mortgage, and just to see, is there a way we could maybe review how that's going? Or it might be, Ardal will say to me, oh, let's take a look at this particular stock, and I might look at my options, as in my options table on them. Definitely, I would say it's worthwhile having just weekly time to spend on it. And part of that weekly time, or some of those weekly times, could be talking to your partner about the discussions that you're having. Maybe it's simply getting stuff together, just getting your stuff together. After I sent off everything to do with the taxes to the accountant, they came back and they had a question. I spent time answering that question and answering it fully so that work could be done, right? So similarly, I would say just put it in your diary and make it nice, make it with the coffee and the diffuser and the music. 3 senses I took care of there. 3 senses. I had the lovely smell of the diffuser, I had the gorgeous taste of the coffee, and my ears were quite happy filled with the music as well. So that's how you can make an environment lovely, is to fill up your senses. Fill up your senses. So obviously what I was looking at and what I was touching was the laptop. So you could kind of say all of the senses were full at that stage. But what I really hope you do, what I really, really hope that you do and take away, sorry, as I say, every time I look over there, just checking the chat, that what I really hope you do is that you absolutely, for sure, that you find occasional time. And the reason that I put occasional in that way is, I put the inverted commas, is find an occasion to have that time around. Like in our case, it used to be the Friday night board meeting that's now become the breakfast, whatever it is, find an occasion to make sure that time is rooted for sure in your diary. Whenever it is, just don't wait for the wrong time. Don't wait to, oh sugar, actually we didn't have a will and somebody died, and then it's the wrong time to figure this stuff out. Or don't wait until a stock market absolute crash to decide what stocks you want to keep and what stocks you want to sell. Have occasional time. And finally, number 7 is celebrate it. Truly celebrate it. Make sure that when you do it, that you enjoy it afterwards. Have a glass of wine afterwards, or just, I remember the lightness of the feeling that I felt last Sunday evening when, the tax return was done, when everything was sent off to the accountant, and it was in weeks before it needed to be in, that's just great. And there's that same feeling that you get when your finances are in order incrementally as decluttering a house. I have to say, I think so anyway. Now, to move on then to the final thing about what I wanted to say. So as I say, now is your time to pop in your questions or your chat. And of course, if you are not here right now as I'm actually delivering this live, and you have a comment, please do pop it in. Pop in the comment, and we're always keeping an eye on those here in VectorVest. Always, always, always. Before I go on, can I just, before I'm going to give you the last set of action points here, just want to say a huge thank you to Melissa. I hope she's online with me right now. Just want to say a huge thank you to Melissa. Melissa is the person who is the to interview with me every single Fantastic Female Fridays week. And I just want to say, Melissa, you're a joy to work with, and I really appreciate your time every week. And she always makes sure that she's there and she's got, that she's all prepared and she's all fired up. She sends me these fabulous gifts as well, GIFs, as we're going along. So I just want to say thanks a million to Melissa. And while I'm here, I also want to say such a huge double thumbs up thank you to Joey. Guys, I know a lot of you who are part of the VectorVest community know about Joey, but he is just a gift. He always makes sure that he's there. He's always super calm. Even if we've got like seconds to go live, he's always just super calm. He knows the solution to every technical problem, and he's very enthusiastic about helping us along. And in addition, he's often had to sit and fix something going on here on my side when I'm doing my makeup. The poor guy has to look at that. So I just want also to say a huge thank you to Joey and to all of the team in VectorVest. They're absolutely amazing. So just, oh my God, there she is. There she is indeed. Oh, she's actually Mimi Rivera. Glad to see that she's there. She says, I'm here. I love working with you. She truly is amazing. And Joey, I know that you're there too, because he's always there keeping an eye on me. So just want to say huge thank you to you both. Now, last tips and tricks for you is, remember, create a time. Create a time to have the conversation. Create the time. Put the time in the diary. Have an occasion to have the time in the diary, right? Put a time in there. Whether it's a breakfast once a week, whether it's a breakfast once a month, whether it's whatever, just create the time to have the conversation. Don't wait. Now, if I haven't said that 100 times at this stage, it's ridiculous, okay? Second thing is expect not to be surprised. Rather than be surprised, expect your partner to have different thoughts than you. Even now, if you're married to them for 20 years, they might have different thoughts about retirement, or what they might have said before, they might have changed their mind as a result of. Just expect them to have different thoughts to you. And then, therefore, you will become more resilient as a result of that anyway. You will have better conversations if you just say, these are my views. I don't expect you to have the same ones as me. When you start off with that, it actually smoothens out an awful lot of the conversation. Just smoothens it all out, okay? Now, third thing I'm going to say is enjoy it. Make sure your environment is good. Enjoy it over coffee or dinner or breakfast or glass of wine, whatever it is. But enjoy it. And remember again what I told you is that this is a way to build your relationship. It doesn't have to be something that you suffer through and just get over. Enjoy it. Enjoy it over coffee or over dinner. Next thing is use goal focused language, right? When you use goal focused language, it takes away from you to this, you use goal focused language. My goal is to build this show. And by the way, thank you all for liking the video. I can see that the number of likes went up there after I asked you. So thank you. And it's just, I would appreciate your help in trying to grow the show. And tell me, email me with ideas or send me Instagram messages. I'm at Susan the Positive Economist. Send them to VectorVest. I'm also on that in Instagram. Send them into Messenger on VectorVest. After this, by the way, I'm going to be over on the Facebook page for VectorVest doing a Facebook Live summary of this. Send your messages there, whatever your ideas you have to help me build this show, to make it better, to make it more useful for you. Tell me. I really want to hear them. But use goal-focused language. My goal is to build. My goal is to grow. My goal is to have this exciting time. My goal is to get promoted. My goal is to create an environment. But just don't think that your goals should be shared by the other. You can make them together. Lol, thank you. Absolutely. Your goals can be intertwined, but they don't have to be the same. They don't have to be the same, but they can be aligned. They can be intertwined. Next thing is take action afterwards. Take action afterwards. Please do after the show. Like, what can you do after the show, right? You can set up your Google Sheets with all your live prices and start documenting why you do that. If you're a VectorVest subscriber, get in and create your graphing layout, or get in and then create notes on your charts. Maybe it is that you're just going to say, right, I'm going to text my wife, I'm going to text my partner, I'm going to text my husband, I'm going to text my boyfriend, text my girlfriend, whoever, and I'm going to say to them, let's have a breakfast next week where we get some omelets together, and then we start talking about how we are going to plan our pension, or just talk about our financial goals. And we're going to get the coffee in, and it's just going to be lovely. So take action afterwards. Remember what I said about holding people accountable. There's a slight difference. There's a subtle difference between nagging and holding them accountable. Let the person set their own goals, and then also celebrate the success if they meet them. But if they don't, ask them what happened there. And then also the last point I'm going to make here is redirect. Redirect the conversation positively if emotions start to run high. No, you do this. Redirect it. Okay, how about we figure out here, what is the best thing that can happen? That's a lovely question. I often do it when I'm with my staff, or when I could be with subscribers, or when if I'm here with you on the show, I will ask you, what's the best thing that can happen? What's the best thing that can happen? That's a great question, so that we just move it back. Or, okay, I know we focused a lot on problems. Let's now think about what the solution is. Or, okay, I understand that happened. What can we learn from that so that we can move forward and things can be better in the future? Redirect the conversation positively if emotions start to run high. That's just the way that it can really, really help. So, on that note, ladies and indeed gentlemen, thank you so much indeed for joining me for this episode of Fantastic Female Fridays. I just love speaking to you here every 2 weeks. I really, really do. It's a thing that I look forward to all week. And believe me, at HQ, despite the fact that I'm based in Ireland, and yes, I am wearing green today, not because I'm Irish, just because I'm wearing green today, but yes, I am here in Dublin when Joy and when Melissa, both of whom are on now, which is really, really lovely. I'm really delighted that they're here. They're both in North Carolina, but what I mean by in HQ, the preparation for this show starts long before we push the go live button, long before. So from the twin interview that happened earlier on today, where Melissa and I were interacting, Joey checked in. We always have a tech check beforehand, right? Clay and I, we brainstorm about this. We actually brainstormed about today's session about 2.5 months ago. And of course, as I say, I'm going to be popping over now soon to Facebook Live, and any of you that want to join us over there, keep the conversation going. I'm going to see you there. And then, as well as that, I'm also going to make sure that I follow up, and I make sure that you have access to all the slides and everything if you sign up at vectorvest.com/FFF. That's the way in which that I can share them there. So, just going to check over here at the comments. Jean says, fantastic education of your style. Well, thank you so much indeed. And please do, you're more than welcome to come back every single episode. Vince says, thank you, Susan, you're amazing. Well, thank you, but guys, you're amazing. You and I can be amazing all together if we keep growing our community here. Sandy said, thanks, Susan. You're so welcome, Sandy. And thanks for coming back. I know you've been here many episodes. We hope that you can be with us for many more. And also Vince says, do I teach options? Yes, absolutely. I have been the options girl. During the summit, I have been also... I do them during our European Q&A sessions, and also I will be doing future episodes on options as well. I use them an awful lot in my own portfolio, as I've spoken about. So guys, to each and every one of you, thank you so much. See you in 2 weeks' time, and goodbye.